Congress is racing to pass a new coronavirus stimulus package as time is running out before additional unemployment benefits end. Lawmakers approved a bonus of $600 a week in federal insurance for those who lost their jobs during the pandemic as part of the CARES Act. But that bonus expires next week. For some states, like New York and California, that bonus could end over the weekend. The Labor Department estimates about 32 million workers, or about 1 in every 5, is collecting unemployment insurance. New state jobless claims also went up last week. That's the first increase since the pandemic began, a sign the economy may not be bouncing back quickly. Our Nancy Cordes spoke with a laid-off cook in New Orleans whose place of employment is still closed. He says without that bonus, his income will drop to just about $250 a week. And he worries about what working in a pandemic means for his wife and 4 children.
People are not just sitting around waiting on a check flicking channels just to see what's coming on the soap operas. They are hardworking American people out here that will love to go back to their jobs. People are getting infected once they go back to work. So it's like health risk from seeing the numbers and seeing the data. That is just kind of scary to want to infect myself and bring that back home to my family.
Congressman Tom Reed is a Republican representing New York's 23rd Congressional District on the state's southern tier, and he joins me now from Washington. Welcome, Congressman Reed. Great to have you with us.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much.
So, should Congress extend the full $600 a week unemployment bonus in the next bill? And if so, for how long? And if not, what changes would you make?
So I don't support extending the $600 across the board enhancement benefit, but I do support continuing an enhancement at the federal level and do it in such a way. I'm a big proponent and been advocating for something like an enhanced benefit of up to $600, but no more than X percent of the wages you had before you went into unemployment. This would ensure that you don't have that financial disincentive that we're seeing and hearing from business owners and people, small businesses across America that say they can't get people back to work because that $600 add-on bonus in our area of New York, that's equivalent to a $72,000 gross wage job. And $72,000 in upstate Western New York is much different than $72,000 in New York City. So I think a percentage wage replacement and recognizing we provide assistance, but we do not ensure that people have access to more money in unemployment than they would by working.
What would you say to those who counter, but that's going to take too long to calculate? 70% of everyone's income is going to mean that, at least for weeks, Americans are going to be left in a lurch.
I mean, this is 2020. To say we don't have the capability to rely upon computer coders and the U.S. government bureaucracy to process a calculation, this is a simple calculation. It's X number of dollars would be the state benefit, and percentage added onto it equivalent to what you earned before you went into unemployment. I would just say we're capable of doing that. And if we're not capable as a government to do that, we have bigger problems.
And Congressman, you told reporters this week that you want to include $500 billion in aid for local governments in the next round of funding. Why is this a priority for you? And do you plan to include language forcing localities to use that money for any specific purposes?
No, the biggest piece of that $500 billion, and this is what we call the SMART Act, working with Senator Cassidy out of Louisiana and Senator Menendez out of New Jersey. We carry the exact same legislation in the House. And the biggest piece of it is to have our local governments receive direct local aid from the federal government to help them through these times. Remember, in the previous packages, local governments of 500,000 people and more received assistance from the federal government. Our smaller communities have not. And this is the heart of communities that are employing our firefighters, our first responders, our law enforcement. They deserve and need this assistance. And so I think there's a sweet spot here, and that's why we've been working with our Senate partners to get this done. And at the end of the day, I believe this direct local aid, this $500 billion that we're looking for as the target, that there will be this direct local aid provision in the bill. Now, as to the amount, that's yet to be determined because it's all about negotiation at this point in time.
Right. And now one thing we know won't be in the bill at this point is something the president wanted, which is that payroll tax cut. It did face bipartisan opposition. What was your stance on it? And were you concerned the White House might not say yes without it?
Yeah, obviously I watched that debate, and being the ranking member on Social Security, responsible for Social Security on the Republican side in the House, very sensitive to what this would have done to the Social Security Trust Fund. And so I'm glad the administration backed off of this, but I do understand what the administration is trying to do. And I support giving, if we're going to have economic stimulus checks, we should make sure that the people that showed up at work, that earned the paycheck during the COVID-19 crisis, that they get as big of a bonus as possible. You shouldn't just have a check sent to you because you have a Social Security number in America. And so I supported, authored a piece of legislation that said up to $3,000 economic stimulus checks to those that showed up during the COVID-19 crisis. Not just our healthcare workers who are our true heroes, our doctors and others, but also those who showed up at the grocery stores, who showed up at the convenience stores. They showed up to work. They should get a stimulus check, in my humble opinion, as the priority.
And Congressman, you are from an area of New York where there have been few cases of COVID-19 relative to the state as a whole. As we know, New York's infection rate has dropped dramatically since its peaks in April and May. Do you believe that schools in your district should open for in-person classes this fall? And if so, what should those classes look like?
I do, and I'm glad in this package, school funding and assistance from the federal government will be there. And we also have to take care of childcare. Childcare is another priority of ours as we advocate for this. And so I support reopening the schools, but I also do support and recognizing that this should really be done at the school district level, at the local level, that each school should develop its plans and make that determination, because they're the individuals. They're the school board members. They're the teachers. They're the bureaucracy that know what it means to safely and do this in a healthy way, so that our students have access to the schools and have access to the classroom, but recognize that there could be fires associated with the virus going off, and that the safety of the students and teachers have to carry through the day, and that determination can be best made on the ground in the local communities.
All right. Well, Representative Tom Reed, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much.